Now, I have to say, I am a massive Batman fan. As a young teenager, I remember buying the Frank Miller comics Batman Year One and that brilliant Batman The Dark Knight Returns. Brilliant graphic novels, so dark and gritty, just pure genius. So, when I heard about the Batman film, well, I was proper excited. I think I saw the film the minute it hit the cinemas. Was it a good film? Yeah, sort of. I mean, Michael Keaton was a pretty good Batman, and Jack Nicholson's portrayal of the Joker, well, it was completely over the top. But I have to say, it was still missing that vital dark ingredient that was portrayed in the Frank Miller graphic novels, but Tim Burton did a pretty good job nevertheless. I have to say, I also enjoyed the sequel. That was even darker, but then it completely lost its way with that Val Kilmer and George Clooney films. Far too kiddie, and Christ, why did they give George Clooney nipples? Come on! Jesus, these films were just pish. And then of course there's the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. They were just brilliant, and they're still my best films. But anyway, back to the Batman the movie. So, Batman is a 1989 superhero film based on the DC Comics character of the same name, created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. The film was directed by Tim Burton. It is the first installment of the Warner Brothers' initial Batman film series. The film starred Michael Keaton as Batman, Jack Nicholson as the Joker, Kim Basinger, Robert Wuhl, Pat Hingle, Billy D. Williams, Michael Gough and Jack Palance. The film had an absolute brilliant cast. It obviously starred Michael Keaton as Batman, Jack Nicholson as the Joker, but it also had Kim Basinger, Robert Wuhl, Pat Hingle, Billy D. Williams, Michael Gough and Jack Palance. Brilliant. The film takes place early in the title character's war on crime and depicts his conflict with his arch enemy the Joker, Jack Nicholson. He is brilliant. The Batman was one of the first films to spawn two soundtracks. One of them featured songs written by the late Prince, while the other showcased Elfman's score. Both were brilliant and both were very successful. Batman was both critically and financially successful, earning over $14 million in box office totals. Critics and audiences particularly praised Nicholson's and Keaton's performances, Burton's direction, the production design and the Elfman's score. It was the sixth highest grossing film in history at the time of its release. The film received several Saturn Award nominations and a Golden Globe nomination for Nicholson's performance, and won the Academy Award for Best Art Direction.
Joker brand. I get a grand again and again.
Now, Ocean Software were, for a very long time, considered quite rightly to be one of the best, if not the best, software houses for converting a movie license to a more than reasonable game. Sure, they missed the mark every now and again, but usually they delivered the goods with alarming regularity. And the good thing was that they stuck to a simple formula, where they would take certain key scenes from the film and base a level on each one, creating a multi-level, multi-style extravaganza. During one of their most awesome phases, Ocean produced licensed wonders such as Robocop, The Untouchables, and the subject of this review, Batman the Movie, which was released on the 11th of September 1989 for the Commodore 64 and the ZX Spectrum, with the Amiga, Amstrad CPC, Atari ST, MS-DOS and MSX versions following soon after. So let's not waste any time, let's get started by looking at the ZX Spectrum version first. Let's go. The game consists of 5 levels based on events from the film. Each stage has a time limit and a health gauge represented by Batman's face turning to the Joker's, with Batman losing a life if he runs out of either. The levels have varying gameplay. The first level is superb. Styled as side-scrolling gameplay, Batman fights his way through the Axis chemical plant, where you have to basically defeat many of Napier's thugs by means of batarangs and your bat belt, avoiding natural hazards such as long falls and chemical drips. The level is pretty big, and to get to the end you'll need to get the hang of using your bat belt and the bat rope to swing and hoist yourself up to platforms above. Once at the end of the level, you must knock Napier from his platform into a vat of chemicals, much like the film, turning him into the Joker. The player and enemy sprites are large and detailed, and remembering you lose a third of the screen with the score panel and energy meter, it did make things a little bit close quarters, as in you didn't necessarily see an enemy until they were upon you. However, with these minor gripes aside, the first level was a nicely balanced affair, with enough challenge for the first time players to come unstuck but not overly difficult. In the second level, Batman drives his Batmobile across Gotham City. This is certainly one of the more challenging and frustrating parts of the game. Viewed from the side, you must drive through the streets of Gotham City, avoiding other cars on the road and blockades, occasionally turning left and left only to get to the Batcave. Getting to the end within the time limit is no problem, but without careful manoeuvring, your energy level wouldn't last the distance. Missing 3 consecutive turns causes Batman to run into a police roadblock and costs the player 1 life, regardless of the timer and health gauge. You really have 2 choices at turning left: either fire the bat rope to the lamppost on the corner and swing round, the fastest and probably the most stylish way, or skid sideways and attempt to drive through that way. I have to say, I preferred to skid. It was definitely cooler to use than that bat rope. Now, on the third level, it's a mastermind-like puzzle set in the Batcave, in which Batman is presented with 8 consumer products and must identify the 3 that the Joker has tainted with the deadly chemical Smilex. The player chooses 3 times at a time and is told how many are correct. A health penalty is incurred for selecting any incorrect items. It's a simple enough problem, made more difficult by the very tight 1-minute time limit. Of course, you could be lucky and pick all 3 right answers for the first time, but that didn't happen for me, I have to be honest. On to level 4 then, and probably the most difficult part of the game. The Joker has decided to release his poison in the form of gas, and to do so has staged a parade with lots of balloons all filled with the poisonous gases. Taking control of the Batwing, your job is to fly through the parade, cutting the connecting cables off the balloons, releasing them into the air and away from the city. Just like the film. No doubt you're saying that doesn't sound particularly hard, but just you wait until these helicopters come along. 1 touch equals death, so you'd better be good at manoeuvring past them or you'll soon end up as bat soup. In the 5th and final level, styled similar to the first, Batman climbs to the top of Gotham City Cathedral and must stop the Joker from escaping on a helicopter. This time you've got spiked floors to contend with, which gives instant death, and also crumbling floors, so you'll need to be on your guard all the way through. Now, taking the Joker out at the end is slightly different to the film, so let's just have a look. So, what did I think of this game? Was it any good? For me, the answer is yes. Alright, it's a bit short, but it's still good. Even with the time limit of 10 minutes on the platform levels, you'll easily do that once you know where you're going. But even so, it's a highly polished product with some superb graphics and lots of nice touches. So it's certainly worth hunting down and playing through this game. Now, I have to say, one of my favourite touches of the game was the energy bar, something that was used where the energy bar is in fact a picture of Batman at the bottom of the screen, and as you lose energy, Batman's face was replaced by the Joker. That was pretty cool. Now, this is probably why Ocean's games often had a big status bar. They needed it to fit in the score, the number of lives, the time limit, and a great big binking energy bar picture. Although, whilst it was a nice touch, sometimes you did wish that play area was just a little bit bigger. I certainly experienced that in that Rambo game I recently reviewed. And finally, it's also worth mentioning the music. The 128K soundtrack is most enjoyable and suits each level really well. So yeah, I would advise you to check out this little gem of a game. You may well finish it in one sitting, but you'll have fun doing it. Give it a go. Alright, that was the ZX Spectrum. Now we're on to the Commodore 64 version. Now, first of all, the game levels are practically the same as the ZX Spectrum, so I don't feel there's any need to explain them all over again. However, what is different is the improved colour and graphics. Pretty good. Check out the detail on that Batman, eh? And a particular mention should also go to the music. It is stunning. You've got a great loading screen for Batman the movie, which is really a fantastic looking loading screen. You get the ocean loader playing in the background while you're waiting for the game to load, and the tracks during the game itself are very good as well as very memorable. Every level has its own tune, and it's so good it actually enhances the gameplay. But if you don't like the music, you can opt for sound effects. It's no big deal. So let's have a look at the levels. Now, on release, the Commodore 64 game was well received and reviewed highly, in particular by Zap 64 magazine that gave it an overall rating of 96%. Wow! Commodore also reached an agreement with Ocean Software to release a Batman pack for both the Commodore 64 and the Amiga 500. I have to say, these types of bundle packs proved particularly popular for the Commodore in the late 80s and early 90s. Overall, I would say that Batman for the Commodore 64 is probably one of their best movie licenses, up there with Platoon, Robocop and The Untouchables. For me, it brings back memories of when big superhero blockbusters were the rare events compared to today. I really enjoyed this version of Batman on the Commodore 64. Good job. Okay, now we're on to the Commodore Amiga, which at the time was the most powerful machine. Therefore, I was expecting this game to be even better than the Commodore 64. And was it? Yes, it was. Now for me, graphically, I was impressed with the game, but many reviewers found that it looked decidedly 8-bit, which, considering the Amiga's capabilities, was extremely disappointing. However, for me, the Batman sprite is clearly defined and the background of the platforming sections contain great colour and shading depth. And I have to say, I love the graphical variety in the enemy type, which shows criminals in dark brown trench coats carrying 6 shooters to a recognisable Bob the Goon hurling Molotov cocktails at our pointy-eared hero. However, what is clearly an impressive improvement over the Commodore 64 and ZX Spectrum versions we've just watched is its famous driving sections. Our Spec A and C64 versions only have this in a 2D sided scrolling race car game, and on the Amiga, you have 3D. It was just graphically impressive, and it reminds me of that Mega CD Batman Returns driving section. Okay, they're totally different games with regards to gameplay, but first impressions when you see it, it reminds me of that, particularly in the appearance. The scrolling speed is incredible, and there's some awesome detail in the nighttime cityscape backgrounds also. Another one of the game's strongest points is in its sound design. Okay, Amiga music always has a reputation for being extremely high quality. Batman the movie soundtrack does not disappoint. Unfortunately, none of the music is based on Danny Elfman's iconic themes, but it's still energetic and catchy. It helps project an appropriate atmosphere for each level. The driving sections feature a growling guitar effect, while the cathedral level really aids in helping the player feel like Batman. The equally well-designed and appropriate sound effects complement the game's high-octane action. Really impressive. Good stuff. And the game, well, it plays excellently. The platforming sections are well constructed, with continue points placed in just the right place so that you won't get too frustrated when you die. Enemy placement is also well thought out. These features demonstrate attention to detail when it comes to level design. The most famous aspect of this version is the variety contained in the gameplay. The driving and flying sections provide some serious pulse-pounding action. The puzzle sections, while not advanced, offer another change of scene for the brain before returning to the platforming action. It's a difficult game to complete, but it has the one more go factor in spades. And as I already mentioned, Commodore UK reached an agreement with Ocean Software to bundle the game with Amiga 500 computers. Between October 1989 and September 1990, A500 machines were sold in the United Kingdom in Batman-themed boxes containing the game and New Zealand story, as well as FA-18 Interceptor and Deluxe Paint 2, both contributed by Electronic Arts. With an initial commission of 10,000 units, a total of 186,000 were sold at the end of the run, making it the most successful Amiga bundle ever sold by Commodore. Well, there you go. Brilliant stuff. Right, okay, now on to the Amstrad CPC version. Now look, this game is a pretty good game too. I mean, it has all the levels, an okay beepy soundtrack I suppose, and good sounds. The colours are different in this version, brighter perhaps, but, why is the Batman dressed as Adam West's Batman? Tim Burton's Batman was dressed in black. It didn't have this blue-grey costume you would associate with the Adam West TV shows. Come on. This is not the costume of Tim Burton's Batman. And for me, this is just a little bit lazy. When I see this kind of detail, I start to think that the programmer has not actually researched or even watched the film. Oh, come on, the Batman must at least look like the movie character. Is this petty? I don't think so. Not really, considering it was the film that inspired me to buy the game in the first place. Anyway, let's calm down and let's look at the game. let's ignore that Batman costume for a second. Let's have a look at the game. Overall, I was impressed with the game. It is pretty impressive. It is the same game as the previous versions, but it's certainly much more colourful. This is a good Amstrad CPC game, it really is. And what I liked about the game the most was that it really did have that kind of arcadey feel above all the rest that we've looked at so far. Alright, now we're on to the MSX version, which is basically based on the ZX Spectrum version. However, this version plays a little bit slower than the Spectrum version, but otherwise it's similar in playability. Let's have a look at the levels. Another key difference between this and the ZX Spectrum is there is no music. A little bit disappointing. Now we're on to the Atari ST version. This game is very similar to the Amiga version, and that must be a good start. However, I have to say that the Amiga has the edge over it, particularly with regards to the sound. I mean, going all the way back to the title screen, there's the most horrendous music to welcome you. It takes quite a while to progress from this squeaky, random set of barely melodic notes to get to anything vaguely Batman sounding. The Amiga's version's got a nice tune, and it plays throughout rather than the choice of music or sound effects we've got on the ST. Actually, once you're in the game though, the music is very similar, and it is a nice selection of generic but polished chip tunes, one for each level, albeit none of these are even vaguely Batman themed in the slightest either. I do prefer the sound effects though, and while they're nothing spectacular, the feedback was almost a necessity in the flying stage so that I knew I cut the rope right. And likewise, not having any engine sound or that metallic clank of that grapple hook as it connects with a lamppost in the driving stage just felt wrong. Again, like the Amiga version, the Batmobile level is brilliant. It lives up to the hype. Overall, a very good game. Let's have a look at the Atari ST levels then. Now we're on to the PC version of Batman the movie. The MS-DOS PC version is just an average game. For starters, I can safely say that the DOS version is easily the most unplayable one of the lot, due to the badly converted 3D sections, and for that alone, I can heartily recommend you keep yourself a safe distance away from this game. Let's have a look at the levels. Well, there you go, that's the Batman the movie game. Overall, the game is a pretty good game, and certainly up there in the top 5 Ocean movie game tie-ins, perhaps in my top 3. But what was the best version of all these Batman games, and what was the worst also? Let's find out. For a start, I feel that there are 2 different game formats here. There's the games with the 2D driving section, and then there's the games that had the 3D driving sections. It's obvious to me that the 3D driving sections are certainly an upgrade to the 2D versions. So to be fair, what I really want to do first of all is pick the best games with the 2D driving sections found in the ZX Spectrum, the Commodore 64, the Amstrad CPC, and then the MSX. Now, all of these games are worthy of your collection. However, due to the better graphics and sound, I would say that the Commodore 64 is the winner. I would have probably given the Amstrad CPC version the second place. It's a good game, but, and I do mean but, I was slightly disappointed that the Batman costume was not of the same black design of the movie, but more related to the older Batman costumes. This is a bit lazy. And then there's the MSX version, which is very similar to the ZX Spectrum game, but slightly slower and with no music. Therefore, based on all of that, I would give second place to the ZX Spectrum, and then the Amstrad CPC, and then the MSX. Now, to the games containing the 3D driving sections. Well, as I said earlier, the MS-DOS version is easily the most unplayable one of the lot. And due to that badly converted 3D sections, I'm going to place that last. And for me, the clear winner is definitely that Amiga version, and then the Atari ST, but that Amiga version was brilliant. And then finally, if I was to rank all the games from 1 to 7, I would rank the MS-DOS number 7, the MSX number 6, the Amstrad CPC number 5, Commodore 64 in third place, Atari ST in second place, and the brilliant Amiga version in first place. So there you go, the crown goes to the Amiga version. Great sound, great colour, great graphics, great playability, and I love those 3D sections. Get in there. Well, there you go, that was my video of the Batman movie games. Now remember, this is just my opinion. My opinion is not necessarily yours, and that is fine. Just remember, it's all for a bit of fun. I hope you liked my video, and if you did, then please press that like button, leave a comment, even if it's a nerdy one, nerd. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Okay folks, until my next video, you take care of yourselves. I'll see you all very soon. Bye bye.